jest People Story PwC. Kamila Kalińczak, zapraszam. And today my guest is Lefi. Hi, good to have you here.
Thank you, Camila. Glad to be here as well.
You've joined PwC in July 2019. So I can say that it was just before the pandemic came.
Yeah, close to 2.5 years ago. Feels like an eternity, to be honest, back when things were normal, if you can call it this way. But yeah, definitely I joined 2.5 years ago, PwC. And well, right after, pretty much after 9 or 10 months, the pandemic basically has decided to actually kick off.
Right, March 2020. So the first lockdown, it was the moment which changed a lot of our lives. The world, had to press pause. So what was the biggest change in your life?
Well, quite frankly, the biggest change with the pandemic was the face-to-face interaction, per se, right? The ability to talk to people. I work in operations, so that proximity with people is something I had to learn to switch when working from home. But most definitely, I would say the proximity to people, the ability to talk face-to-face. But luckily, with technology, we've managed to actually overcome it, or at least for a little bit.
Okay. And also in your way of thinking about work.
Yes.
Is there some kind of change caused because of the pandemic?
Well, there's been a lot of changes, but I think, like everyone else, we went through a lot of, I would say, transitions in our way of thinking. I think when the pandemic kicked off, the main thinking was more around the communication. How am I going to communicate with my team now that I'm working from home? Is the messaging right? Are they feeling basically my expressions on the camera? Do they understand basically the goals and where we need to actually land as a team? Second phase was some kind of a denial, I would say, in a sense. Is this going to be over with at some point? Well, luckily with the vaccination right now, we started with a hybrid model in our office. And hopefully we're going to end up finally seeing the light in the tunnel, right?
Yeah,
and reaching a normal status back in the office.
Let's keep saying that all the time.
Yes.
So I was going to ask you about the biggest challenges after March 2020. Was that it?
I think one of the biggest challenges was, first thing first, making sure that communication is up to the standards, in a sense, like keeping all the channels open over chat, over phone calls, over meetings with the team. But second was making sure that we are providing the level of proximity that we used to with client visits on site, whether us being basically with our clients on their sites or them basically visiting us. The other challenge, obviously, is more mindful about our new starters and our new joiners. We've been working very hard in making sure that even though we are welcoming our new starters on board online, we're making sure that we provide them the right level of hand-holding and proximity that they need to have. So to say, they can feel that they are assimilated to the organization and to the team.
Don't you think that we had to change a bit the way of our definition about good manager lately? Of course, good manager had to be always clever, smart, responsible, etc. But when the pandemic came, people wanted to know that people who are in charge are also trustworthy.
True. It's a very good question, actually, because, again, I think we've lost a lot of touch in a sense that people being in front of us creates a natural bond of trust. I think, especially for people who had a very low tenure or for new starters, to build that level of trust with people you've never met might be difficult. And as I've mentioned, we've done a lot of work around making sure that we handhold our new starters, that we provide the level of support necessary to all our team members so that they are able to actually feel assimilated to the organization. They feel that they're being supported. And most of all, they feel that they belong to the team, especially if you've never been to the office or you've never seen your colleagues, etc. But luckily, with the restrictions here and there basically being removed, there's been a lot of occasions for people to actually meet outside of the office or actually meet in the office within the hybrid work model.
Mm-hmm. You're responsible for training people who join PwC. So how does it look like today versus the pre-pandemic times?
Right. Well, I wouldn't say that I'm a trainer. I'm rather someone who actually introduces the team to financial crime unit. So I'm looking after the first, I would say, session for all the new starters within the financial crime unit. I think what has changed before and after the pandemic is the ability for people to feel the need to actually interact. And what I'm trying to do is via the camera, via asking questions, via trying to be funny and not as a stiff person from day one, because I don't think I'm a stiff person regardless, that people can actually interact. I think people are self-conscious when they see themselves on the camera, especially for the first day, when they hear their voice, when they see strange faces to them. So that's really, really important to make them feel comfortable day one. It's a continuous effort. There is a lot of changes between being in the office while or actually working behind the screen at home. But most important is we make sure that people feel comfortable and feel basically compelled to actually ask questions, because ultimately we are there to actually support them to get to know, understand what the organization is all about.
Do you like remotable work, online work?
I think the answer to that question differs depending on the weather outside, but I do miss being in the office. Yes, there are a lot of pros for being operational from home, but I think for a sense of, I would say, mental health and for basically the socializing aspects of what we do day in and day out, I can't wait to go back full time in the office, to be honest.
Really? Okay, I think it is important for us to add that you live in Gdynia.
Yes,
because
correct.
you've meant the weather outside, you know, in Warsaw. It always, you know, make a difference if the sun shines. So I think that the weather and Gdynia compares.
True that. I mean, if it's sunny outside, I miss the commute when it's sunny rather than, you know, having to sit at home and dealing with everything from home. So yeah, most definitely.
Okay, so the biggest advantage and disadvantage of that kind of work, I mean the online, remotable.
Okay, not criticizing, you know, the office coffee, but the biggest advantage is my own homemade coffee. But on a serious note, I think the biggest advantage of working in the office is definitely connecting with people, ability to resolve problems instantly, ability to actually approach someone at a desk, have discussion over coffee, ability to build a human connection, right? The biggest advantage from working from home is definitely, I would say, the ability to be operational in your own turf, if we can call it this way, especially during days where it's quite gloomy outside and you don't feel like driving to the office on a -10 or -15 type of temperature.
Okay. And did you have some embarrassing maybe funny situation caused by online work?
Embarrassing now. I don't think anyone has ever seen me wearing shorts on camera, at least not yet. But I had a very funny situation. Actually, I was on a meeting and basically, my neighbor started knocking at the door and then started knocking even harder at the door. So I had to jump out of the meeting just to realize that a boar destroyed my garden fence and was right in the middle of my garden. So yeah, that was one of the most, I would say, unusual situations I've had throughout the pandemic. Memorable situation, having to jump out of a meeting and to actually escort a boar out of your garden, most definitely, yeah.
Okay, so imagine I'm 5-year-old right now, and I ask you, what do you do? And you have to be specific, and please make it simple, because I'm 5 and I would like to be able to repeat that to my friends, in the backyards.
Well, in a very simple terminology, so I work for the financial crime unit, but in simple terminology, what I do is actually I help financial institutions, banks predominantly, and making sure that the clients that they deal with are not clients that could be in some shape or form dealing with unethical or I would say unlawful type of activities, such as laundering money or financing drug cartels, or laundering money on behalf of drug cartels, or financing terrorist organizations. So that, in a nutshell, is what I do predominantly. But since you're 5 years old, I'm not going to dig in deeper.
Okay. And what kind of advice would you give to yourself 5 years ago?
As an advice, I mean, I'm not the type of person who does have regrets, but I would also always give myself the advice to be even more bold, in a sense, to try to actually push doors even further, keep on challenging the status quo. And I always have the feeling that I could have done more for the team. Like there is that sense of always do more, always do better, always try to be more approachable so that the team can actually feel the sense of belonging, per se.
And do you think your job, your place, will change a lot in, for example, next 10 years? I know we have pandemic actually, so it's tough to predict anything those days, but...
Us as a firm, as an organization, I don't think we will change. I'd like to think of ourselves as being the answer company, an organization that will evolve depending on the questions or the problems that we have to solve. I think that technology is going to play even a bigger role in what we do day in and day out. And if I look at it from my very personal, professional landscape, I think technology is going to be the main ally of any service provider that is basically providing AML compliance services to financial institutions. So basically, long story short, for the years to come, the winners in the market are going to be the organizations that will solve the riddle of technology and experience, which in reality could sound a very simple balance, but is not that simple for the financial institutions that we support.
We've talked about being a good manager those days. So empathy, self-care, people care, also work-life balance. I think these are the things we had to appreciate, and we have to appreciate more and more. But in PwC, you also care about diversity and social impact. How do you understand those values?
Well, I mean, starting with diversity, I mean, we're speaking in Polish. Sorry, English. We are speaking in English currently, but in reality, the way I'm looking at diversity at PwC is the ability to actually embrace cultural differences. We value difference. We believe that differences basically are an enabler for creativity and innovation. Just within the financial crime unit, we have over 25 nationalities. It feels like
25 nationalities?
Over 25 nationalities, right? So languages are obviously one of the differentiators of what we deliver to our customers. And obviously that creates a very diverse and multicultural environment in which we operate. As I said, for me, diversity means creativity, which leads to innovation and which leads basically to exchange of ideas. I mean, in a very simple term, if we have a diverse team, it means like we're going to have people with different backgrounds, different educational systems, and obviously different perspectives. Now, when it comes down to the social impact, I mean, the way I perceive social impact is the purpose of us as an organization, things that we try to actually challenge on a positive way within society. Business against smog, for instance, supporting foundations, whether local or across the country. That's definitely a purpose that we give to our identity as an overall firm in Poland.
So if I would like to wish you something, what would you like me to wish you?
Profession, I presume, right?
Of course.
Right. I think if you are to wish me something professionally, it would definitely be to keep the same passion in what I do day in and day out. Passion in terms of making an impact, passion in terms of interacting with people and actually supporting them day in and day out. And definitely the same passion when it comes to driving and making the difference for our organization and our clients. So that's the part that I would like to keep as a spark within me as a professional for the future years to come, pretty much.
Beautiful conclusion. Plus the great weather in Gdynia, of course.
Plus the great weather during the summertime in the Tri-City area, indeed.
Okay, so I do wish you that. Thank you for talking.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hi, my name is Lefi, working as a senior manager within operations team for the financial crime unit. Join us.